Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take the sources you send us and really dig into what matters most.
Yeah, we try to cut through the noise for you.
And you've given us a fascinating stack for this one. We've got a big research paper, a systematic review, actually, looking at health interventions for truck drivers.
And alongside that, some info about a brand called Oriums Fit Their Products, their blog.
Right, and even kind of oddly, instructions for a different podcast that talks about simplifying research. So, quite a mix.
It really is.
So our mission today, diving into all this stuff you sent, is, well, first, to understand the health challenges truck drivers face based on that research. What are the risks, the potential disasters, as you put it?
Yeah, the serious side of things.
Then what does that evidence actually say about fixing those problems? Do the interventions studied actually work?
And we'll also look at the other info you provided, like the Oriums Fit details. What perspective does that add?
Exactly. The goal is to help you think about navigating these risks, maybe how to, prepare for the possibilities.
And it's interesting, isn't it, that the Oriums Fit info mentions they have a blog specifically for simplifying research.
Yeah, a bit meta, given what we're doing right here.
Totally. But let's start with the core research paper first.
Okay, let's do that. Because it kicks off by reminding us how incredibly vital truck drivers are. I mean, they literally move the economy.
Absolutely. Everything we use, pretty much. The paper throws out some huge numbers.
Yeah, like $10.4 trillion worth of goods moved by trucks each year in the U.S. That's just staggering.
And it's big elsewhere, too. $224 billion in Australia, $124 billion in the UK, handling almost all consumer goods there. It's fundamental.
But then the paper pivots pretty sharply, doesn't it, from that vital role to the health reality for drivers.
It really does. And it links a lot of it directly to the job itself. It's not just choices, it's the occupational factors.
Right. Like the obvious one. Just sitting for hours and hours. It's incredibly sedentary.
Yeah, that's the big one. Limits your chances for physical activity right off the bat.
And then there's food. Being on the road, finding healthy options consistently. It's tough.
For sure. Truck stops aren't always brimming with salads, are they?
Yeah.
And irregular schedules mess with sleep patterns, too.
Chronic sleep deprivation is mentioned.
So you add all that up, the sitting, the food challenges, the poor sleep, and the paper points to what you'd expect. Common unhealthy behaviors.
Like poor diet, not enough physical activity.
Yeah, high sedentary time, smoking, maybe alcohol use, though the paper we're looking at focuses more on the diet, activity, and metabolic side.
And the results. The paper calls them poor cardiometabolic risk profiles, which basically means trouble for your heart and metabolism.
Yeah, exactly. High rates of overweight and obesity. That Australian stat really jumps out.
Which one was that again?
Over 54% of drivers, they're classified as obese. Compare that to about 32% for the general population. It's a huge difference.
Wow. Okay. And it's not just weight, right?
No. Also, high blood pressure, hypertension, hypercholesterolemia, both major risks for heart attack and stroke.
And elevated blood sugar, too, pointing towards diabetes risk.
Plus, the paper mentions other common problems like depression and, unsurprisingly, a lot of back pain.
Which makes sense with all that sitting and maybe stress.
But here's a really critical point the research highlights, and it's quite worrying. It's about getting health care.
Access issues.
Big time. Because drivers are always on the move, they often have limited access to regular doctors, public or private health care. And even social support networks can be harder to maintain.
Right. And the paper says even when they can get care, they often don't.
Yeah, there's a tendency not to seek help when illness or injury first happens. Maybe pressure to keep the truck moving, meet deadlines,
Which can turn small problems into big ones?
Exactly. The paper says acute issues can become chronic because they're not dealt with early on.
So for you listening, if you're a driver or involved in the industry, this research is painting a really stark picture. These are serious health risks, the potential disasters you mentioned, and they seem baked into the job itself.
It's definitely a tough reality check presented in this paper.
It really is. Which brings us to the next big question. The paper tackles. Okay, we know the problems. What actually works to fix them?
Right. This is where the systematic review and meta-analysis part comes in. The researchers gathered results from 19 separate studies that had tested different health programs for truck drivers.
And they crunched the numbers together, the meta-analysis, to see if these interventions made a real difference compared to, say, doing nothing or just getting basic info.
Yeah, they looked at programs trying to boost physical activity, reduce sitting time, improve sleep, diet, weight loss, even smoking cessation, a real mix of approaches.
And they included different kinds of studies, like randomized controlled trials, which are usually seen as the gold standard.
Correct. They pooled data from over 2,100 drivers across those studies. But the main findings, when they compared the people getting the interventions to the control groups, well, they were, as you said, pretty sobering.
Sobering is the word. Because for most of the key health outcomes, the things you'd really hope to see improve, they didn't find a significant effect.
That's the headline, really. No statistically significant benefit for increasing overall physical activity levels.
Okay.
No significant effect on total weight reduction.
Mm.
No significant improvement in total cholesterol, or HDL, the good cholesterol.
Wow.
No significant reduction in systolic or diastolic blood pressure.
Seriously, even blood pressure.
Not in the main intervention versus control analysis, no. And no significant improvement in fasting blood glucose levels either.
That's almost everything. Weight, cholesterol, blood pressure, blood sugar. The core metabolic stuff. Finding no significant impact across the board from these combined studies. That's huge.
It's a very striking finding. The paper's quite clear. The only area where they found a statistically significant positive effect, comparing intervention to control groups, was a small to moderate increase in fruit and vegetable consumption.
Okay, so people ate more fruits and veggies. That's good, obviously.
It is. But interestingly, in this analysis, that dietary change didn't seem to translate into significant changes in weight or those other cardiometabolic markers we just listed.
Huh. What about that other analysis you mentioned, looking within the groups?
Ah, yes. They did look at changes from before the intervention started to after it finished, just within the groups who got the program. And there, they did see a moderate increase in physical activity levels. So people in the programs did seem to become more active over time.
Okay, that sounds more positive. But there was a catch.
Well, the catch is, because that increase wasn't significantly different when compared directly to the control group, it's harder to be sure the intervention caused it.
Ah, I see. Other things could be going on. People reporting better because they're being watched, maybe?
Could be, or just natural fluctuations. The comparison against a control group is usually considered stronger evidence that the program itself is working.
Got it. So pulling it all together from this big review, the conclusion is pretty challenging, isn't it? These interventions they studied were really only moderately effective for getting drivers to eat more fruit and veg.
That's the main takeaway on effectiveness from this paper. Not much measurable impact on the other big health markers, despite the efforts.
And the paper suggests maybe we need different approaches.
Yeah, they really emphasize that future interventions need to grapple more directly with the workplace environment itself. The long hours, the sedentary nature, the access issues, those unique barriers.
Which brings us back to your idea of preparing for the worst. This research really slams home that it's not simple. You can't just hand out a standard health plan and expect miracles, it seems.
According to this review, yeah, the evidence suggests those kinds of broad interventions studied here had limited success in shifting the big health indicators for drivers.
It underscores how difficult preparing really is, when the risks are so tied to the job and the tested solutions show limited impact in studies like this.
Definitely food for thought. Now, shifting gears a bit. Beyond this research paper, you also sent us some other interesting materials.
Right, we got that info about the brand Orium's Fit. What did that source say about them?
Well, the document describes them as an Australian-owned wellness brand. It highlights some accolades, like winning Best Product of the Year from productreview.com.au in 2024 and 2025.
2 years running, it said, out of thousands of nominees.
Yeah, that's what the source claims. It also mentions a community of tens of thousands of users, social media presence with testimonials, and nearly 500 Google reviews averaging 5 stars.
And specific products, what did it list?
It mentioned things like EMS devices, electromuscle stimulation described as portable muscle stimulators, also massage guns, focusing on compact size and power.
Okay, things related to muscle recovery, potentially.
Seems like it. Also eye massagers and something called the neck theater.
Neck theater, what's that? A neck massager.
Actually, the source explicitly says it's not a massager. It's described as providing immersive 8D audio, but keeping your ears open so you stay aware of surroundings. Plus, hands-free calls.
Huh, interesting. So this source describes a brand operating in the personal wellness tech space. Things like muscle stim or massage. You could see how they might relate to issues drivers face, like back pain or fatigue from sitting, maybe even stress.
Potentially, yeah. Though, to be clear, the big research paper we just discussed didn't evaluate these specific products or technologies or their effectiveness. This Orium's Fit info is a separate stream of information you provided, coming from the brand itself.
Right, and that source material also talked about their blog, didn't it? The Orium's Fate Research Digest.
It did. It stated the blog's purpose is to take peer-reviewed studies, like from PubMed, and break them down into simpler language.
Making research accessible, basically. They claim they linked back to the original studies for transparency.
Yeah, aiming to educate, not mislead, and sometimes highlighting studies that challenge mainstream views, according to their description.
Which, like we said, is kind of funny given we're here simplifying research, too.
Exactly. And the fact that you also sent those instructions for another podcast, Research Simplified with Leo and Eva, that apparently also talks about simplifying research and mentions Orium's Fit. Well, it paints a picture of how this brand is positioning itself around making research understandable.
It certainly provides context. So, okay, let's try to bring these different threads together from all the sources you gave us.
Right. We've got the research paper, clear, stark picture of health risks for drivers, and a challenging view on how well the studied interventions work for major outcomes.
Then we have the Orium's Fit information, describing a brand in the wellness market with specific products and content, including that research simplifying blog based on their source material.
And the context from the other podcast instructions adds another layer.
So, for you listening, what does this all mean? Well, it highlights that finding ways to manage the serious health risks of trucking is really complex.
The research paper strongly suggests that just relying on the kinds of interventions studied in that review might not be enough to move the needle significantly on many core health issues. Preparing for the worst isn't straightforward based on that evidence.
It really shows the depth of the challenge, doesn't it? The job itself creates hurdles that standard programs, at least the ones in this review, struggled to overcome in a measurable way across the board.
And while that research gives the broad picture on intervention studies, the other sources, like the Orium's Fit info, show specific products and content being marketed in the wellness space. Their actual effectiveness wasn't part of the research paper we reviewed, but it shows what else is out there in the information landscape.
Okay, before we wrap up, here's that surprising fact again from the sources, just to underline the scale here. Trucking contributes massively to the economy, think $10.4 trillion in the U.S. alone. The health of this workforce is, well, it's a huge deal.
Definitely puts it in perspective.
So wrapping up this deep dive, key takeaway. Being a truck driver carries significant documented health risks tied directly to the job.
And the rigorous research review we examined found that the interventions studied had limited success in improving many major health outcomes, highlighting how tough it is to effectively prepare using just those approaches.
We also touched on the information you provided about Orium's Fit, a brand in the wellness space with products, and that research simplifying blog showing another angle on this topic present in your sources.
Which leads us to our final thought for you, the listener, to chew on.
Given the serious risks the research identifies and the apparent difficulty in finding broadly effective interventions based on this specific review, what are the best ways for you to manage these challenges? How do you prioritize your health on the road?
And crucially, what kind of information, what kinds of approaches should you be looking for, and how should you critically evaluate them for yourself, given your unique situation and the realities of the job?
It's a big question, prompted by everything we've unpacked from the sources you sent. We definitely encourage you to go back to those sources yourself and dig even deeper.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's all we have time for in this deep dive. Thanks for sending these materials in. They certainly gave us a lot to discuss.
And hopefully gave you some valuable insights too. Until next time.